Hello everyone and welcome back to Ace Attorney Investigations 2 Prosecutor's Gambit. We're trying to get some information out of Von Karma and it's going exactly as well as you would think. Your ponderings certainly point to another possibility. Eddie's right. Mr. Frost would have needed to freeze his own large blocks of flavored ice to create his art. And there wouldn't have been time to do that during the contest itself. So what must Mr. Frost have done in order to finish his flavored ice entry within the time limit? Make it out of something else entirely, make the day... Okay. Well, I don't think he made it out of something else entirely, although... Like, did he want it to melt? Like, is that part of the mystery? I think it's that it was made the day before the final. He must have made the flavored ice the day before. Then all he would have had to do was sculpt it. What are you muttering about now? Oh, I'm sorry, I just realized something. That's all. I realized that you're correct. What? Mr. E? I hope you know what you're doing. Oh, accepting defeat at the last, are we? The only thing I'm accepting is that perhaps one of the things you said was true. They were helping one another right up until the day before the final. Just as you said, the day before the final really did mark the end of their collaboration. Mr. Frost's entry was carved entirely from blocks of flavored ice. Ice which he would have needed at least a day to freeze, and whose flavors would therefore have already been prepared by Mr. Gusto. Ooh, we got him sweating. Yes, which lines up perfectly with what Gusto told me, that he helped Frost until the day before the final. In that case, why didn't Mr. Frost reciprocate and help Mr. Gusto in return? I can hardly be expected to read the minds of the dead. Perhaps not, but I imagine Mr. Gusto could tell us. So why don't you let us speak with him? Or do you still insist your interrogation was as thorough as you claim? How dare you call my methods into question? That's not my intention. I just don't understand why you would obstruct a perfectly valid line of inquiry. Give me one good reason as to why you're keeping Mr. Gusto from me. One good reason, certainly. The how and why of Frost and Gusto's collaboration have absolutely no bearing on this case. How can you possibly say that with any certainty? If their relationship had broken down for some reason, that could very well have been the motive behind this murder. Could it indeed? Then why did Gusto himself tell me all about it? Why did the man you seem so keen on accusing share the details of his collaboration with the prosecution? Please tell me you have some proof to back up your preposterous suspicions this time. Mr. Gusto only acted suspiciously one time that we know of, and I imagine Mr. Von Karma is aware of exactly what that suspicious action was, which means this is probably a trap. Well, cat got your tongue, but even if this is a trap, I can't back down now. Mr. Gusto snuck into Mr. Frost's room, and we still don't know why. That fact alone is reason enough to suspect him. Tisk, tisk, tisk. If that's your only concern, then allow me to clear it up for you. I knew it. I knew it was a trap. I was saving this for the trial, but consider it a taste of things to come. Plus, I'd hate for the proceedings to drag on because of your needless interjections. Here, take a look at this. That's Gusto and Frost and their sons. Photo of Frost, Gusto, and their sons. Gusto's son visited his father daily up through the semifinal. Gusto snuck into Frost's room in order to retrieve this photograph. But why? It seems their sons attended the same elementary school. Gusto's concerned that the fact of Mr. Frost and his acquaintance might place him under undue suspicion. A concern that you have just proved was entirely well-founded. Gusto's actions make perfect sense, and you have given me no reason to believe otherwise. I don't think that's remotely true. Never want to let me talk to Mr. Gusto. Now, if you are quite done obstructing my investigation, I have things to be getting on with. That smug, self-righteous jerk. I'll give him something to be getting on with. What do we do, Mr. E? Mr. Tangarora's finished if we can't figure something out. Things to be getting on with. What exactly could those things be? He has a body, a murder weapon, and a suspect in custody. If the prosecution means to pursue Mr. Tangarora, surely they have all they need. So why is Mr. Von Karma still investigating the scene of the crime? Something on your mind, Mr. E? We're missing something. Something important. Mr. Von Karma has everything he needs to proceed with the prosecution of Mr. Tangarora. And yet, he still doesn't seem entirely confident of his case. If he was, why refuse to share information with Detective Bad? Well, haven't seen the autopsy report yet either. Guy's probably got a hand in that too. 24 hours post-murder and there's still no autopsy report. Oh, alright. In addition, we still haven't solved the mystery of what happened to the evidence that went missing. Taking a look at the scene in front of us, Detective. A very conspicuous pool of blood that should be here is clearly missing. None of the victim's blood was found in Tangarora's room. Alright, we got that. Alright, don't remember anybody mentioning they'd removed the blood along with the body. Evidence that turned up not in Mr. Tangarora's room, but in a most unusual place. It's a match. The blood in the fountain is Frost's. Frost's blood was detected in the water of the fountain. So that kind of sticks with the missing blood. So there were no traces of Mr. Frost's blood left in Mr. Tangarora's room. Yet we found some in the fountain instead. Why? Oh, okay. I guess blood in the fountain and missing victim's blood. Mr. Frost's blood went missing from the crime scene, but traces of it showed up in the fountain. Why go to the trouble of removing the blood from the scene after the body had been discovered? And why only the blood? Surely the body would have also been in the way. Wait, could someone have moved the body aside to get the blood? Did someone move the body aside in order to get the blood that was in the chest? Alright, now this is going somewhere I have no idea. Well, I guess I'll put those two together and see what we get. So the body might have been moved aside or even removed from the scene of the crime entirely. After all, as far as we know, there's still no autopsy report. We've learned plenty about the murder weapon and the suspect, but very little about the body itself. Our assumption thus far has been that the body had been recovered by the forensics team. But what if that assumption is false? What if Mr. Von Karma wouldn't show Detective Bed the autopsy report out of something other than spite? What if we've been thinking about this the wrong way around all along? The question isn't why did Mr. Von Karma hold back information about the body, it's did Mr. Von Karma even have any information about the body in the first place? How do things look from that angle? Perhaps the body hadn't been removed by the police in order to carry out an autopsy. Perhaps it had already been removed and hidden away by the culprit before their arrival. Mr. E? We've both heard the rumors about Mr. Von Karma's questionable methods. Fabricated witness statements, shady deals, forged evidence even. Yeah, sure, everybody's heard that stuff, but what's that got to do with us right now? I would never judge a person on the basis of rumors alone, even Mr. Von Karma. I've tried my best not to let my preconceptions color our interactions with him. Nonetheless, it appears he may indeed be willing to twist the truth to his own ends. Twist the truth? You mean, he's been playing dirty? I fear he might have been, and still is. And I'm not about to let him get away with it. Let's see. I'm returning to the prosecutor's office. Don't breathe a word about anything to that infernal attorney. Yes, sir.
Hold it.
Yes, what is it now? I have a few questions, Mr. Von Karma, about a certain fact you've been keeping from us. Really? You mean to call the methods of an officially sanctioned investigation into question yet again? I'm warning you, if you obstruct the police in their work any further, there will be consequences. Objection. It's not the police I have an issue with, Mr. Von Karma. It's you. What? Isn't it on the prosecution to work out who the real culprit of a crime is? What foolishness is this? I have no intention of debating what the prosecution's role is or is not with the likes of you. But let me make one thing clear. My job is to identify suspects and ensure that every last one of them is convicted at all costs. Believe me when I say I leave absolutely no room for doubt when I present my perfect, unassailable cases. And how far would you go for your perfect cases? Would you create facts out of whole cloth, perhaps? I thought you had outdone yourself already, but now you intend to accuse me of fabricating evidence? I do. Because it is why you've done nothing but hinder Detective Bad from doing his job at every turn. What are you talking about? You didn't shut him out of the investigation because you wanted to keep an eye on us. You did it to stop him from finding out that you don't have the body. What? He doesn't have the body? Ridiculous, you're clutching at straws. I will tolerate no more of your preposterous slander. Then allow us to examine it. Prove me wrong if you can. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I'm afraid you'll have to try a little harder than that. I'm under no obligation whatsoever to prove your baseless accusations one way or another. As you must have seen for yourself, a piece of bloody chocolate is missing from the scene of the crime. Why did it disappear? And where did it go? What does it matter? Some blood went missing from the chest where the body was found, so what? So what indeed? That's precisely my question. If the body was still at the scene when the police got here, removing the blood would accomplish nothing. However, let us suppose for a moment that the body was not. If someone had wanted to erase any trace of what had happened in that room, then it all makes perfect sense. What is this petty obsession with the blood stain? But since it's so important to you, why don't you tell me where you believe it went? Of course, after all, evidence is everything, as you never tire of telling us. I believe this should back up my theory quite nicely. What evidence do I have that shows where the blood from Mr. Tangarora's room went? Oh, that one? It was found in the fountain, but not at the scene of the crime. Take that. Traces of the victim's blood were found in the fountain, along with traces of the chocolate from Mr. Tangarora's room. I believe the missing piece of the blood-stained chocolate was dumped into the stream that flows to the fountain, which strongly points towards one certain fact. Someone purposely disposed of the blood after the body had been removed from the chest. Mr. Von Karma, where did you find the body? You didn't find it, did you? Answer me. You? Where did you get your hands on that kind of evidence? You have neither the authority nor the means to carry out that kind of analysis on the fountain water. No, but I do. Curse you bad, you've been a thorn in my side from the moment you were assigned. Well, no longer, as of now, you're officially off the case. I was barely on it in the first place. Mr. Von Karma, you still haven't answered my question. Will you admit it? Will you confirm that no body was ever recovered? Tisk. It's really quite the claim, you know. And one for which you'll never find any proof for, I'm afraid. What must I do to get an answer out of him? Now, if you don't mind, I've given you quite enough of my precious time already. I look forward to destroying you in court, Gregory Edgeworth. Your precious logic and theories won't save you there. Nothing will. Mark my words, Mr. Von Karma, your methods will be your undoing. No matter how you try to hide the truth, I'll bring it all to light in the end. But he didn't. Forgive me, Detective. I didn't mean to put you in a difficult position. Don't sweat it. It was always gonna end this way. Honestly, nobody's ever sidelined me the way he did before. First time for everything, huh? You know, I think you might be right about the body being missing. I am, and I'll prove it in court. Well, if there's anything I can do to help, just say the word. Since, you know, I'm off the case now. That's very kind, and I'm sorry to keep asking favors of you, Detective Bad, but there is one more thing. Hey, what are you guys whispering about? Come on, let me in on the secret. Alright, Eddie. Detective and I were just arranging a little insurance for the trial. I think we have enough to see Mr. Tangaroa acquitted, but I'd prefer to have an ace in the hole, just in case. And what is it? You'll find out in the courtroom. Wait, what? You're letting me join you? Of course I am. You are my assistant, after all. Ah, I'll be more than that by next year. I'll be a full-fledged attorney, you know. We can take on Mr. Von Karma together. Indeed. I'm hoping we'll have freed Mr. Tangaroa by then. But if we're up against Mr. Von Karma, I guess we can't rule out the possibility that this might take some time. Right, but we'll do everything we can in the meantime. I know you can beat Mr. Von Karma, Mr. E. I believe in you. We can't allow Mr. Tangaroa to remain in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And we won't. I'll expose Mr. Von Karma's lies if it's the last thing I do. Oh. To be continued, and I realized I forgot to save after the last episode, so that's convenient. It'll go a little bit longer, 17 minutes, a little short, even for me. Alright, back to the Zodiac Hall fountain room. And that's pretty much how things went down. Those are the facts of the IS-7 as far as I'm concerned. I'm finally learning the truth about my father's last case. So what happened at the trial? Well, we lost. Von Karma did a real number on us. Really? You couldn't prove that Mr. Tangaroa was innocent? No, we could prove it all right. It had a decent little pile of evidence in our favor. Problem was, we underestimated Von Karma. He fought even dirtier than we feared.
I can imagine. Secure a conviction at all costs. That was always his guiding principle.
Yeah, that's the truth. Anywho, the trial dragged on and on. The whole thing took about a year in the end. Never forget the day the verdict came down. December 28th that following year. It's April now, so, oh mama, we're talking over 17 years ago. Time sure does fly, huh? December 28th. I was there that day 17 years ago, sitting in the courtroom gallery. And just before the trial got started, Gregory noticed that Samson was looking even worse than usual. It turns out the poor guy had finally reached his limit. It was so bad, he even said he wanted to be found guilty. Wait, you mean they forced a confession out of him? Yeah, Von Karma got what he'd been pushing for from the very beginning. When Gregory tried to drop the bombshell about there being no body to speak of, he learned that Von Karma had used the power of the police to head him off at the pass. He even had himself a fake autopsy report. That wasn't even the end of it. Von Karma had gotten Samson to falsely testify against himself to being an accessory to murder in court. Combined with his confession, the poor guy's goose was well and truly cooked. Gregory still had his ace in the hole, though.
The same ace he has Detective Bad to help him with.
Exactamundo. He knew he needed one last card to play if they squeezed a confession out of Samson. So he had Bad record all of Samson's interrogations. I guess Detective Bad really wanted to know the truth too, huh? We all did. He was a trooper, stayed with the case even after Von Karma took him off it. He was tied up in some other big cases too, good old Bad. They don't make him like that anymore. Anyway, Gregory presented the recordings as proof that Samson's confession was coerced. You know what? It almost worked. Cop named Ian Sideman got fired. Why did I recognize Ian Sideman? Inside Man, got it. Samson's interrogator and initial detective before Bad, he took the fall for pretty much the whole thing. Yeah, but Von Karma didn't
get away scot-free. In fact, he was disciplined by the chief prosecutor for the one and only time in his 40-year career.
Oh, that was Edgeworth. Whoops.
Still, Samson himself couldn't stomach another day in court. So when that guilty verdict came down, it didn't just signal the end of that day, but of the whole sad affair.
I don't remember a lot myself, but my father's face when they declared Mr. Tangaroa guilty. I was a young child at the time, but even I could tell how much he was hurting inside.
Gregory wanted to appeal the ruling, of course. He would have done anything to clear Samson's name. Then, well, you know what happened next. Poor guy, he never got the chance. I should have left with him that day. I'll always blame myself for not doing that. But I shoved that aside and obsessed over something else. Or rather, someone else. I hated what you did. Hated you for choosing to stick with Von Karma. I hope you can forgive me.
No, you had every right to hate me. I went on to become a prosecutor as planned, and that's when Mr. Von Karma showed me this case file. According to these records, Mr. Tangaroa was convicted as the main culprit in Mr. Frost's murder.
Nope. That's not right. Samson was convicted as an accessory to murder.
Strange, the file clearly states that he was the perpetrator. And plus, I'm fairly certain that all of Mr. Von Karma's cases were successfully solved.
Mind if I take a peek at those? This file's been doctored. The part about the verdict, it's been changed.
What?
Yeah, here, feast your peepers on this.
Organizer of a confectionery contest, victim's body was found inside one of his creations, leading to his arrest. While in detention, Tangaroa discovered that he had a taste disorder, which was subsequently cured via medication. Verdict: convicted as an accomplice based on his confession.
Convicted as an accomplice?
That's a copy of the file they have on record at the courthouse.
Then why is my copy so different?
Well, you said it came from Von Karma, yeah? My guess is he didn't want Gregory's son thinking there was a murderer out there still at large. Didn't want you looking into it again before the statute of limitations was up.
So everything I believed about the case was a lie.
Like they say, we all gotta start somewhere. What's important is you know what's what now. The statute of limitations may have run out, but the truth's still out there, you know? I inherited Samson's case when your old man passed. Prosecution handed it off to somebody else, too. The great Von Karma wasn't going to bother facing off against a rookie like me, was he? Anyway, long story short, the killer was never found. Samson was found guilty instead.
That's terrible. Is there really nothing we can do to help him?
Not without the real perp, I'm afraid. Until then, his confession stands. Speaking of which, I didn't find out until after the verdict had been handed down, but Von Karma threatened Samson and made him a deal. Told him if he didn't confess, he'd make sure Judy was convicted instead.
How could he?
Samson knew there was no way Judy could have done it, of course, but he wasn't going to take any chances, so he did what he was told and confessed to keep her safe. Dang. Now riddle me this, mousy boy. Why do you think your Uncle Eddie just happened to be in the prison the day Bronco Knight died?
Ah, that's right.
You were there to see Mr. Tangaroa.
Bingo. Judy and I both promised we'd visit him every day. I didn't quite keep that promise. But Judy did. She never missed one visit in all these years. Come rain or shine, she always showed up. But none of that changes the fact that Samson is still being unduly punished day after day.
How heartbreaking. We've got to do something, Mr. Fender.
Well, kiddo, that's actually why we came here. The ice sculptures are back on display just like they were all those years ago. And we're gonna see what we can find out, right, Miles Reno?
I'm a prosecutor, Fender. I don't look at these things in the same way as you or my father.
Miles.
That doesn't matter right now. Speaking not as a prosecutor, but as Miles Edgeworth, I want to know the truth behind both of these cases. And I'm not leaving until I do.
And we will just look into this case further in the next episode. All right, we got some really good information. I thought they were going to try to hide like the details of how the trial actually went down for later. So it was kind of neat getting all that now. This is a really good case so far. I am very excited to see how it plays out. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.